Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Backyard Tabletop. My name is Jacob, and I'm one of the co-hosts.
And then my name's Kurtis, and I'm the other one over here.
This is our second time, well, technically third time, but that one we erased from history. So technically it's our second time. Well, there was a whole thing. It was a divination wizard thing I did. I was able to re-roll, and I just completely redid it. So this is our second time being on camera. We're on camera now, and we're gonna be okay. And I haven't talked with Kurtis. This is actually the first time I'm going to be talking about Kurtis with this. I was thinking about posting every other Monday. Does that sound good?
Sure, it sounds fine to me.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, hey, I'm just here to be a pretty face and provide commentary.
Oh, okay. So that way I'm not talking to myself.
Yeah.
No, I really appreciate that because we do way too much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we're gonna get rolling. I have a couple ideas for this episode, but first I wanted to talk about. I wanted to get Kurtis's thoughts on death, and particularly player character deaths in Dungeons and Dragons.
You scared me. I thought we were going to get real existential.
Yeah,
for a second.
I didn't want to go that heavy. But
we'll get there. That's like episode 100 stuff. We'll get there.
Okay. Yeah. Well, once we run out of ideas of funny things and gimmicky things to talk about, we're going to talk about serious stuff. No, yeah. I get it. The reason why I bring this up is because I have been playing in a Saturday morning game, and we just now made it to level 3. For those of you who don't know, Kurtis and I we play with a DM in India who's a great dungeon master, but he really, really loves Pathfinder modules, and he converts them to 5e, and we run them through that. Kurtis has a Friday night game. I do a Saturday morning game on 2 different groups. He's going through the Reign of Winter for us, and oh my gosh, it was a slog. And I'm playing a bard, and this was, even he was like, wow, this is really deadly. I have probably been at 0 hit points more times in the past 4 weeks than I have probably ever been in playing Dungeons and Dragons. And so I haven't died yet, but came very, very close a couple times.
And that's saying something, because you've been playing through Curse of Strahd with me too. So.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Luckily, with Curse of Strahd, I'm an archer, so I'm usually
exactly.
So I'm usually hanging back, but and this one I'm a bard, and I'm supposed to be hanging back, I guess. But there's been a couple times I've gotten maybe a little bit cocky, and so it's been really fun role play. But I wanted to bring this up because I was talking to Sarah about this today. I feel like death in particularly RPGs is a really cool moment to be able to role play that you don't get to do very often, for one, hopefully, and 2, you don't really get to hopefully it's in a dramatic way, but it's a spur of the moment thing. You didn't plan typically for, unless you're sick of the character, but normally you don't really plan for your character to die. It's usually in the heat of the moment. Something happened, and I just wanted to get Kurtis's take on, do you haven't died, technically you haven't played a character that's died yet, right?
No, not permanently. Really my only experience in a long-term campaign with a character dying is also the game that I play on Friday nights with our friend. But this one was a lot less deadly. It was just a crazy fight that was kind of flung on it. We were not prepared. We were expecting to just be investigating a tower, and then found out it was the lair of this crazy beast that is super strong. And then even the DM himself kind of was like, we did the fight twice because the first time he realized that the way it had been transferred over from Pathfinder, it was still just it was doing things that no creature can do, or like according to 5e should be able to do.
Right. That was the one that was casting like leveled spells as legendary actions, right?
Yeah, it could cast a leveled spell as a legendary action. Yeah. And not just like one particular spell, like any spell off its list. It could use spell slots as a legendary action after someone else's turn.
Yeah, that was rough.
And it just decimated us the first time. Literally, my character jumped off of the side of this like 50-story tower because I was like, I'm dying either way. Luckily, I'm a monk, so I was like able to barely survive it. But yeah, one of the characters didn't make it out. And essentially, it was like a self-sacrificial moment, which was really interesting. It was very intense, difficult. I found out that the way I tend to react with those things is anger, apparently, because even after the first fight, the second fight, by the time we were done and like this character was dead and stuff, my first instinct was to go back at the DM and be like, dude, that's still way too tough. You can't do that to us. Like, it's still, that's not how 5e works. You can't do this. And, you know, be the DM that I am, trying to argue about rules. But, no, but then once that kind of calmed down and we got back, it was really like that day, once we finished that session, by the time we got back into it the next session, I had come to terms with it and was okay with the way the monster was. I realized I was just
and see that's
dealing with grief.
And that's the really weird and different thing about it, because you know, you do the same thing when you read, and still to this day, one of my all-time favorite moments is in Lord of the Rings, the first one when Boromir dies. I have such an ingrained memory of that as like, man, I was probably 12, 13 years old when I first watched that movie. And to this day, it is still one of the most impactful things that has happened to me when it comes to a storytelling moment, because it was this sacrificial moment. He was standing up for, he had just made a mistake with Frodo, and now he's like, realizing where he was wrong, and he went to save the other hobbits. And ultimately he winds up dying, and the music in the moment was so cool. And it was epic. It was slow-mo, and he was taking these arrows.
When he calls Aragorn his king, it's just like, like it just kills me every time.
Every time. Right after that, Aragorn got to have the revenge. So it wasn't like a long, prolonged thing. It's like, now you got to hunt down this orc. It was just revenge. And then he got these final words in, the last words of his character. And this is something Matt did in campaign 2 in Critical Role. When you look, hopefully this isn't spoilers. This was a while ago, so that's why I'm picking this one. Is that he looked at Taliesin, who was dying, and asked, what are Molly Mock's last words? What does he say in this moment? And I think that's so cool to have that moment as a character and to role play it. It's like, man, there's just something about, and hopefully it's in a dramatic way, and it's not like you're level 2 and get mauled by a direwolf and it's like, well, I'm just rejoining. But if it can be in a climactic battle and like at the Watchtower that we had, it can just be such, honestly, in my opinion, one of the coolest moments that can happen in a game, and then for the continued sessions after that.
Man, us, like, because at that point it just turned into chaos. Like, we were just all running, trying to find our own way out.
Exactly.
And to get back to our home base, you know? And being the monk, you know, like I said, I leapt off the side of this 5-story... No, it was like 60 feet up, wasn't it? Something like that?
It was
80 feet huge. Up. It was a tall tower. I leapt off the side and like rolled and hit the ground running to try and go back and get reinforcements.
And there was a lot of other stuff in that fight that you know, myself and one other character was like 3 rounds from getting there because we were running back up the tower.
Yeah.
We had thought we already cleared out the place, and then there was one room that we didn't go into, and that's where this boss was hiding, so we did not expect it. So there were other things involved, but still just the utter chaos. And in the moment, like you said, sometimes you react in like just your emotions of like freaking out and anger, and it's like, no, this can't be, etc., which is oddly like kind of like real life, huh?
Yeah, it is really strange. I was just saying that, like, it's very interesting to think about, like the really weirdly, the times I've dealt with grief and losing a loved one in real life too. Usually my first instinct is anger, which is weird because I'm not an angry person at all in general.
Yeah.
I mean, you can attest to that. Like, I don't really get angry, but it's really weird that when grief hits me, it always seems to hit me with and I react with anger. Yeah. And it's the same way in the game.
I feel like because it's like, wait, this isn't supposed to be, and sometimes our brains just don't know how to cope, and so like, wait, we have to make this make sense, and I think sometimes we have to deal with it in our own way, but I don't know. I just wanted to bring it up because it was something that's been on my head, like, man.
And the only other time I think I've dealt with like a really permanent character death was Steve's character in your other game. Mm-hmm. The dwarf.
Yes, Horace.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have killed 2 players.
No. You've killed 2 player characters.
Oh yeah. I keep doing that. I keep saying player. It's like, make sure you say the whole phrase. You have not killed 2 of your players. in the game. At my table, you die in the game, you die in real life.
You die in the game, you die in real life.
I'm trying to think. Yeah, I think it's only been 2. And it was Steve character, who was a dwarf. And then the other one, I'm trying to remember. What was the other one?
I've gotten real close a few times, but I don't think I've ever killed someone who stayed dead.
It was in sorry, that just popped. It was the very first campaign I ever read, and it was actually at the boss fight. One of the characters that go down in the boss fight. And just to kind of jump back to, like, it can lead to really cool sessions. That one was really unique or sessions to follow. That one was really unique because it happened right at the boss fight. So the epilogue was kind of what you guys decided to do and remember him, and it was an urban setting. So he wound up being buried in his family's home, and I added to the epilogue that his house became like a memorial site for everyone lost in that city because there was a climactic thing that happened in that city. And so essentially the players were coming back to help rebuild the city and reclaim the city. And one of the characters that was from the city wound up going down in the boss fight.
Yeah, I remember.
Again, that was really cool. Yeah. And I don't know, sometimes it's for you as a player that winds up dying, it's kind of sucks, and you get to have a really cool moment. But for everyone else, they get to live with it, and through the course of the game, they get to keep remembering or keep bringing it up. I think particularly with the one that you mentioned with Horace, you guys wound up being named after him. You were called the Horace Brigade or the Horace Brigade or something?
It was something like that. And then I don't remember. I think we buried him like in the stone, like he wanted or something like that. But it was kind of the same thing. Yeah, I don't think I've ever killed any characters, but not permanently. I've definitely killed characters, but they've been brought back.
Got pretty close. Yeah. Oh yeah. Dropped to 0 hit points. Yes.
No, not even that. I mean, like death saves, like gone death saves, but like have been revivified.
Are you talking about Greg's character?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was in Curse of Strahd. I was in the very first session of Curse of Strahd, folks. So
yeah,
yay. Oh, that's interesting. I just want to talk about it because it's been on my mind, and I think it's something really, honestly unique, really cool about the game. And I mean, as far as mechanics go, it just makes sense. Your character has hit points that has an AC.
Yeah,
and it's what separates it from just being you guys winning all the time. Because it's kind of something that's coming up in media a lot. It's like when you and culture wise too, it's like you got to go through hardships, you got to go through difficult things, and sometimes you have to lose in order to get better.
Yeah, I think why really most of the time I tend to react more of like, no, let's do it again. That wasn't right, is because I'm like so used to video games where I'm like, no, just pull up your save file, Like
Yep,
like
quick
that's
save.
that's how I tend to think of D&D really. A lot of the time it's just a more in-depth role-playing game.
Yeah.
Like Dragon Age or something, But in that, if your party wipes, you don't have to start over. You just load a save, And so like that's why I tend to be like, no, but we don't have to. Like, if we don't want to, we don't have to. But when I'm DMing, I'm totally not like that. I'm like, no, I mean, if it happens, it happens,
And it's interesting when that kind of, like, you see it, because I've taught D&D to players, and, well, actually, I did a writing club, a D&D writing club, at a school I worked at, and two of the students' characters died in one of the games in that one. And it's really interesting to see when that kind of dawns on them, because they all know it. It's like, okay, yeah, I have an AC and I have HP and I'm taking damage.
Yeah.
And if I fall down, okay, I'm going to be doing death saves.
Yeah.
Okay, what happens when all the death saves are gone, though? And it kind of dawns on them like, what? Ooh, you mean your character's gone? Like,
they don't just respawn at the city and come back later? Can we just
restart the battle? Like,
Yeah.
And it was kind of a really cool learning experience, because I got to explain to them, now what are you going to do? How are you going to remember them to the rest of them? And then for the other two people, it's like, you aren't kicked out of the game. You guys are going to come back next week, and you're going to just jump right into playing. We're just going to make you a new character, and you will play the new character.
Yeah, there's definitely something final about it, but also like in a good way,
Mm-hmm.
Like it makes it feel more interesting to tell the story, and it'd be like, no, when you die, you don't just respawn, you come back as something new and start a new story. It's very interesting.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, and what's interesting about going back to Dip's game, what's interesting that's making it unique now is because we just had this moment. So just a little bit of preface in the game. Reign of Winter is about Baba Yaga, and she has these daughters that are coming back or being brought by Baba Yaga every 100 years. One daughter's taken, and another daughter's put on the throne of this eternal winter place. I won't get too much into it. But every time a new daughter is about to come, there are 3 horsemen that come to basically proclaim the way of Baba Yaga, that the change is coming. And then this latest one, we found the Black Rider, who was essentially what the latest queen is doing, is going and killing all these 3 riders to stop Baba Yaga from coming back, because she wants to reign forever. So we found the Black Rider, and he deems us, he challenges us with, like, are you going to take my mantle and try and stop her from taking over the world, essentially, because all these pockets of winter are coming up all over Galarian, which is the Pathfinder world. And when we all agreed, we all got a permanent +2 stat increase to something Dip deemed us worthy. Like, I got a +2 to charisma. Sarah got a +2 to strength because she's a fighter. One guy who's a barbarian got a +2 to his con, and then the wizard got a +2 to intelligence. And it was something that we all felt, and that was really cool. We got to see on our character sheet. But now it's also like we were talking about it after, like, oh man, this means a lot more now if my character were to die, because we took on this mantle, and now if my character dies and comes back as a new character, they're not going to have that challenge, that
yeah,
new quest, right?
Yeah.
And so that makes it really unique, and as a player, and it's kind of translating to the characters, like, I don't want to die now. Now I want to succeed.
Yeah, you have a goal that is not just something you want to do, but also something that's bigger than you. So if you fail, really bad things happen, not just to you, but to everyone else. Yeah.
So it's just unique, and I love Dungeons and Dragons. I love what different tables come up with and the creative ideas.
Yeah, I feel like that's something that kind of feeling is something you kind of lose as you get into higher levels, which is another reason I like low level play so much, because up until you get Revivify, death is final.
Yeah.
Like just totally final. And then even when you do get Revivify, death is within a minute final. And a minute can go by really quick. Like it's pretty intense until you start getting things like Resurrection, and then it's like, oh well.
I get why mechanics and stuff like that are there, especially if you're playing with a difficult, if your table is a little bit more on the hardcore, really cool challenges and combat. It makes sense, and it makes sense to have a spell in the game that helps bring your character back.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well,
because the other thing is, like, of course you're gonna have spells that can bring you back once you're 18th level, because at that point it's like if you're actually 18th level, you've probably put 2.5 years of time and effort into this character, that's a very good point. Quite the attachment. So like, okay, maybe it's okay that it's a little easier to come back from the dead.
That is a fair point. It's like, are you kidding me? We've been playing this campaign for 2.5 years.
Yeah.
Oh man. That's a good point. Well, thank you for coming along on this thought experiment, and I just wanted to talk about it because it's been on my mind. But the rest of this podcast that we're going to be talking about, so my sister's birthday, Kurtis's wife, it's her birthday is on Saturday. So on Sunday, we're going to be playing a fun one-shot to honor the celebration of my sister's birth and have a wonderful time, hopefully, doing it. So I was going to begin to basically come up with some concepts for the one-shot and let Kurtis in on some of that a little bit. He'll help me maybe come up with some ideas, but also we can make his character too.
Yeah.
So my sister is playing a wizard.
A
wizard. We're making level 10 characters, by the way. She's playing a wizard, and Sarah is playing a paladin. A paladin. So that's two. So we have a half caster, if you will, and a full caster, if you will. So, but there's no restrictions. What ideas do you have for a character, Kurtis?
Okay, so when you first talked to me about this, you were saying something about maybe it being like, like, I'm going to talk a little bit quieter now because she is in the house, so I'm just going to talk a little quieter. But
okay.
You were saying something about it possibly being like, like the focus is going to be on her, and you guys might be like bodyguards or something like that, And so that made me think of kind of doing like, what if I got really inspired by Dishonored, that video game series.
Yes.
And there's this guy in it, the main character you play named Corvo. And he's basically like the right hand of the queen kind of a thing. Like he protects her. And so I was kind of like also inspired by this video I watched the other day by this guy who has a YouTube channel called the D4 Network. D&D Deep Dive.
Ooh, I've heard of them.
Yeah. So that's his thing. It's like it's D4 Network because it's D and D Deep Dive, so it's a D4.
Wow,
it's 4 Ds.
I actually didn't know that. That's pretty clever. I like it.
That's pretty great. But he has a character called the Secret Agent. And it's a build that he made that, like, funnily enough, finally gets into like plays how it's supposed to play right at level 10, because that's what he does. Normally he makes a lot of like heavily multi-classed builds.
That's pretty cool.
And so
Okay.
they don't really come into like fully into play until like 8th level, because that's when you finally get your last class, you know.
That would be a really fun idea for subjects in the future podcast. We give ourselves some community, like, hey, make the best blade dancer / warlock that you possibly can, and we'll bring him and we'll talk about him
Oh yeah.
with
That'd
each
be
other.
cool.
That'd be really fun.
Yeah. So so I was thinking of doing something kind of inspired by that, and so I was going to make this character. He's a human.
A human variant or regular?
A variant. Could have been regular, but I chose to get the feat earlier so that I could do an ASI later instead of having to get a feat later. They are fighter 2, so 2 levels of fighter.
Okay, 2 levels of fighter.
5 levels of artificer.
2
levels of cleric.
Snap.
And 1 level of rogue.
Wow. So this is 4 classes?
4 classes.
This is
wow. At this point, it would just continue to be rogue up until level 20.
Okay. Okay.
But so that's where I say, like, this is where it finally like hits. Now it's playing how it's supposed to.
That's so weird, man.
So
okay, I'm not a huge multi-class person, and it always blows my mind when people are like, "Yeah, I'm gonna do 3-4 different classes." Like, oh my god.
So the idea behind this is like your dex and your intelligence are really high.
Okay.
Artificers are really good at being versatile with skills and tools.
Right.
And rogue gives you expertise. So one, you can be a skill monkey, because originally I was going to play a rogue.
Okay.
But then I was like, what if I do something a little different, like an agent kind of guy? And I found this.
One shots are honestly the best time to just try some very silly stuff. Yeah.
So I can kind of be a skill monkey, and I've got lots of tool proficiencies, and lots of proficiencies, and it's armorer artificer. And you take the, let me get the actual name of it. You take the the infiltrator armor, which is the, like, it gives you advantage on stealth checks, and you get a ranged weapon attack that does lightning damage.
I'm just taking notes, folks, if you hear the clickety clack of my keyboard.
Yeah, so from that you get some cool, like, stealthy bonuses. So you can even be like the rogue, where you can, like, stealth ahead and use thief's tools with expertise and all that kind of stuff. But you're also way more versatile because you have this long range attack that uses your intelligence or your dexterity. And you get some spells.
Yeah, you get some. Yeah,
and
three levels of artificer, right? Was in there?
Five levels of artificer.
5,
It's the one with the most levels. And the reason he goes all the way to 5 is because with that you get extra attack at artificer 5th level.
Gotcha. Okay.
And the 2 levels of fighter. The first level of fighter you only take just because you need heavy armor. And it's the best way to get heavy armor.
As one does. Yep.
And you also get
and you get a fighting style.
You also get the archery fighting style, which gives you a +2 to all ranged attacks. Doesn't matter if it's a bow; it's just all ranged attacks.
Yep.
Weapon attacks.
Could be some throw. Kurtis is just gonna be throwing daggers, picking up stones and throwing them,
shooting lightning with my
sling it
with my palm missile thing.
It would be so fun if you did all this and your main weapon was a sling, just throwing it out there.
and then you take a second level of fighter to get action surge, because why would you ever not want action surge?
No, and I remember when that became opened to my mind of if you get
just
action surge, you can get around the rule of casting 2-level spells in one turn.
Just take a 2-level dip in fighter and it opens so many doors.
Oh dear. Okay. Well, that's pretty cool. So that's so right off the bat, the first notes I take, and I don't know, this is just for educational purposes.
Yeah.
So if people watching or listening are just like, what notes is he taking? Usually the first thing I like to do when it comes to one shots is write down what classes my players are going to be doing, so I know what maybe to present to them, right? So if you have a cleric, a paladin, and I don't know, a fighter, the two right off the bat are going to be religion based. So it might be fun to focus on a one shot that might be about some sort of god, because that's two of them right off the bat. But from also a skill side, right, is if we use those three, the only one that's really doing a lot of spell casting is a cleric. So I probably don't really want to have a lot of arcane focused nature to the one shot. You can, and I'm sure it'll be a lot of fun. Maybe they're playing a knowledge domain cleric and it still would work. But just to let everyone know out there what notes I'm taking. So basically right now we have a wizard who's all about some spell focuses, a paladin, and a skill monkey. So
yeah, so we'll go a little bit into what I'm thinking of, because a lot of times when I try to do multi-classes like this, I try not to think of like, now why would a fighter artificer take levels in cleric? Like how would that fit? You know, I try to do less of that and try to do a little more of like, okay, well, instead of thinking of it as taking 5 separate classes, why don't I think of it as its own class?
That's a good idea.
And I'm just taking certain levels to get there, you know, because then I can just have a baseline of this is why this person is the way that they are, and then take the levels I need to achieve that.
That makes total sense. And sometimes I think it is sometimes, I mean, this is just kind of came to my mind. It can be a little bit metagamey to just focus on one class, for that reason of because I'm a cleric.
Sure.
Right? Sometimes it's like if you join a thieves guild and for the next like year of your campaign you've been part of this thieves guild, it might make sense for you to take a couple levels of rogue because it makes sense, because that's what your character is learning. I don't know.
Right.
It's a fun thought experiment for sure.
Yeah, for sure. So after artificer, I took 2 levels in cleric, and the reason why is going to be very interesting. I took the Tempest domain.
Ah, yes. Maximize damage.
And their channel divinity allows them to deal maximum damage instead of rolling for lightning or thunder damage.
Yep, that's a good one.
Plus, they get tons of really, really helpful spells. That's also my other thing with this character. Since we already have 2 semi-casters, I kind of wanted to make sure that they were much more of a utility spellcaster.
Gotcha.
Not even necessarily like a healer, but more just like, oh, we need this. Yeah, I've got a spell for that. Oh, we need this. Sure, I can have a spell for that. You know, kind of a thing. Because they're also an artificer, so you know they can also make magic items that are really useful to the party. You know. Yeah. And then 1 level of rogue, and it would start going rogue from here on out. But the rogue at this point is like that's the main thing. It's just taken a while to get here. Yeah. And at this point, it would all turn into like subterfuge and all of that kind of stuff. So, yeah.
That sounds really cool. I like it. So, really what I'm probably going to, with knowing this and the 3 characters, what I'm probably going to focus on is probably a little bit combat heavy. And the reason for this is because Kurtis ran a one-shot for me and Sarah like a year ago. And literally all it was us going down into it was like a basement.
It was a cellar at a party.
Yeah, cellar at a party. We were hired because something weird was going on in a cellar. So we went down and we fought a bunch of creepy bone flesh things. It was that did a lot of freaking damage because it was a level 50. I think we was level 15 or something like that.
Yeah, it was really high level.
Just like, it was just a little bit mind-blowing. Like, that thing just did 64 damage. What? Okay.
I literally rolled a d20 to see what level we played and got a 15. So upstairs was like a party, and the party is like literally supposed to be non-stop. Like, it just never ends. Yeah. This guy puts on this party that just keeps going forever, and the way they accomplish this is the floor is basically grates. And so anytime they don't want something or need to throw up or just throw their thing away to be cleaned or toss their food, it just falls through these grates into the cellar underneath that is then cleaned so that nobody at the party ever has to be disturbed by anything.
Yeah.
But all the people who kept going to clean it kept dying for some reason, and so they hired some adventurers to not be seen, not be noticed, but go under there and figure out what was happening. And basically spirits started manifesting in all of the like dead animal carcasses and stuff from them, and eating everything,
bones and grossness, and it was like a swarm type of monster, which was really different and interesting, and it was a lot of fun. It was honestly probably one of my favorite one shots we've ever did, because it was just kind of right to the point. We had some fun role play back and forth because of the beginning of like learning about this place and what it was all about, and then me and Sarah just going back and forth, and just the banter we would say as we're kind of cutting through these monsters. It was just a lot of fun. So, and then knowing that, and also it's like it's level 10, so it's like that this is not a level you get to play every day. So it's kind of like giving you guys opportunities to use these high level abilities. So I'm probably going to focus on some combat support with the wizard, being able to have that shine a little bit, get maybe some smites going with the paladin, and for a skill monkey like yourself. So I might be throwing in some traps and some some extra rooms and things like that.
I would say the way I tend to kind of think about them is almost like a James Bond type, or like a right hand of the divine type, kind of a thing, where it's like, or left hand of the divine, sorry, like a Liliana, where they're like semi-spiritual, but also like, or even, what's the dude's name from Mass? I'm going to get flack for this. The guy from Mass Effect.
Dear. Oh no, the comment section. Oh dude, it's going to be so bad. Are you talking about Thane?
Thane, yes.
Oh, yes.
I thought about it before you said it.
Yeah, you did. It was because of the delay. You probably actually said it first. So
yeah, but Thane, that kind of like super awesome, really cool, has a bunch of gadgets, does this really fun stuff, but also has like a reason, and so they're first off a skill monkey, like a support character that's good with skills and all that kind of stuff. But second off, they are really, really, really good at sustained damage.
Okay.
Like every turn, they're doing a really decent amount of damage.
Okay.
They're not great at throwing out that thing that's going to do 150 damage in one turn, but I'm going to be getting like 60 damage or so every turn, something like that.
Yeah.
Probably not actually that much, but so that's kind of the idea, is like,
cool.
Be good all around and just kind of be like, I just always perform.
All about that endurance.
I'm not like highs and lows. I'm like nope. I'm just always.
Yeah.
I always do my job. I always get the job done.
This is kind of a way of being a bard without being a bard.
A little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I hate bards.
Yeah. I'm sorry. That's terribly tragic. I'm loving my bard. So the one class I don't think I ever really will play is probably a druid, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because nothing about that class has ever really leaped out at me. But that's just a little side note.
So I mean, just kind of throwing this out there, if Sarah's being a paladin, it could be that whatever group she is with, like if she's with a particular church or something like that, maybe they have like a secret service or something that I might be involved in. That way we can be from the same place or something like that.
That's possible. So let me go ahead and reveal a little bit about what they are, because it's a one shot.
Yeah.
So essentially, since this is going to be kind of focused a little bit on Joelle, my sister, she was raised by a hag, and she is now kind of, since leaving, left on good terms, and is now still technically working for the hag, and she is in the royal courts. So it's kind of like a little bit like to go with a Dragon Age origins type of vibe. It's like Morrigan and Flemeth. And then Morgan eventually goes off and serves in the court.
Or like
so
Tasha.
that's essentially what she's been doing for quite some time. And I was kind of going back and forth with this idea because I was like, it was one of those things where last night I could not sleep because my mind was just going with all different ideas.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, and I was like, do I want to make this maybe a political intrigue? And maybe it's like, maybe there's an assassin and she has to save the king, or she could choose to not save the king, and et cetera, et cetera. Sarah's going to also be working for the hag. So that's how they are connected.
Okay.
And so I won't reveal too much about what they're playing until probably the game for you. I may put it on screen so people know. Okay. Ding. Ding. So, and I think it would totally make sense if maybe you're in this place of, if you want to maybe be a bodyguard, you can essentially just be assigned to her to protect her at all costs.
What if I'm assigned to her, but by another court member who really has me there to find out what she's all about, or something like that?
I like it.
Because
I like
that's
that. Okay.
kind of my thought, is like, this person is, essentially a secret agent, So it wouldn't necessarily just be like bodyguard duty. It might also be like bodyguard duty, but also do this, gather information or whatever.
That's a fun little side note. I love that. Okay. So how it's going to start is essentially Joelle is going to, and I'm probably thinking there is a spell, I believe it's called Dream, where essentially you can send a message to someone in their dreams.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of like, that's literally a spell designed for dungeon masters, so thank you.
Yeah.
I'm still waiting for the day when a player character uses that, because that would be super fun. But I'm thinking, and this is what I kind of was going back and forth on, and then after finding out that Sarah's going to be a paladin, and you're going to be kind of this person that's all about trying to solve problems. My idea is essentially the hag is going to call for help, and you guys have to go save the hag for reasons that I have in my head. And so that kind of takes you guys away from the palace. It might be kind of fun if you guys have to sneak out, so maybe there's some utility going on there. And hopefully not be seen, and then essentially go see what this is all about. This was my idea. I don't know if that sounds cool.
Sounds great. Sounds very atypical,
Yeah, atypical, kind of point A to point B. There's some problem solving. There might be a little bit of traveling going on, and it might be some fun role play if you guys want to be like, so what's going on? Why are we out in the forest now?
Yeah.
So you guys can do a little role play, see what stories Joelle comes up with. And so my idea for why the hag, sorry, my voice is a little bit going out on me. I'm sorry.
Drink your water.
Mm-hmm.
Stay hydrated. Everybody at home, drink some water if you haven't had a drink in a while.
Yep. Everyone stand up and do a 5-minute stretch break. Get some water. Okay.
I'm always standing.
Hags, and particularly night hags in general, like to do a lot of trading of the souls with the fiends of the world. And
Specifically
so
night.
I have this idea that might be the main villains that you guys go up against. Well, it might be some fiend-like creatures. And essentially, I don't know if I want to give too much away on what I have in mind, but to put it, this is a enemy of a fiend. Maybe the hag double-crossed him in the past, or didn't fulfill maybe a certain order.
What?
Or
What if Joelle's character's soul was promised to somebody else. But the hag liked her too much after raising her and didn't follow through with it. So it got her into trouble with her debtors.
I like it. Maybe that's why she had to leave in the first place.
Yeah.
And head off to the court.
Just a thought.
If you guys want the notes that eventually I'm going to write up for this one shot, let me know, and maybe I can put it in the description. But if you guys, if there's only like 10 people that watch this and are like, no, I don't care, then I don't know if I'll go through the hassle of editing my notes.
Just wait. In like 5 years, everyone's going to come back to these old episodes and be like, oh, I want those notes.
Oh, I want to do. Oh, no. Maybe I'll redo them at that point.
Put them somewhere safe.
Okay. Oh, dear. Oh, man. I like it. So I like this. That way it kind of ties it together a little bit and has a little bit of a reason maybe for her to save the hag if she so chooses. I like it. And it also kind of changes up the typical norm of hags are kind of, I mean, they're traditionally evil, but sometimes it's nice to change things up. I heard one person of making a good hag, and the player characters treated him like dirt, and the DM was really sad about it. So I think it's important to always never judge a book by its cover.
Yes, because if there's one thing that Wizards of the Coast has been cramming down our throats lately, it's that just because
shots fired.
Just because a creature is from a particular species or race or anything like that doesn't mean they have to be the norm for that.
The norm.
Just because you're a drow, you don't have to be evil. Just because you're a hag, you don't have to be evil.
Have you read the new lore on the goblins with the monsters of the multiverse?
I haven't.
I watched a video about it today. Sorry, I guess this is a side note. So basically, the original god of the goblins, I'm not going to try and pronounce his name. It starts with an M. What's that?
Maglubiet.
How in the world did you know that?
Took me a second, but...
Okay. Well, what Kurtis said, because this is the reason, because in the new monster stat, or then the new races bonuses that you get, races features, goblinoids have Fey ancestry now.
Oh, all goblinoids? I thought it was just hobgoblins.
All goblinoids, even the little ones, even bugbears have Fey ancestry.
Wow, that's really interesting.
So basically, this god, the original god of the goblins, was I think she was a goddess in the Feywild. That's where they all lived, and they were all happy and Fey-like and stuff. And then this god, who's the god of like war and conquest, came and killed that god and took over all the basically in I don't know if I can say the word enslaved on YouTube. Basically took them all unpaid interns and
yeah.
Basically
YouTube loves unpaid interns.
That one they enjoy. Oh dear, this is getting too real. So basically he took over and kicked him out of the Feywild, and that's why their culture is all like evil and stuff, because their god isn't the original god of them, and they're from the Feywild, and essentially they're kept under his will. Like when the goblinoid dies, they go on to fight his wars and conquests and stuff like that. So that's why their whole life is all about war and conquest.
Right.
I don't know. It was interesting. I was like, that's cool, Wizards. That's cool.
Yeah.
Give that, there's nothing wrong with making evil cultures, because sometimes it's cool to be from them and you turned against it for whatever reason.
It definitely does feel like they're moving towards like the only reason any cultures or species are evil is because their god makes them.
Yeah. That's fair.
Not because the culture itself has just taken bad turns, but because, like with the Dark Elves, it's Lolth.
Oh, dear.
And all that stuff, it's like the only reason they're bad is because of Lolth. But as soon as you get out from under Lolth's mandibles, It's like, oh no, I can actually be good. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, look. Yay. Yeah. Okay. Anyway, that was a little side rant. So, hey, maybe you guys will go up against some goblins. That might be kind of fun.
Will crush them.
Yeah. So that's kind of basically my idea, and I might come up with where you guys go, and I like this idea that it might be just in like a swamp. I think that's kind of cool, and you have to go rescue a hag, or not rescue a hag. It's kind of up to what Joel decides. But that's my idea, and I have a really cool fiend in mind that I think is going to be a fun final confrontation. And I think there'll be some fun things along the way to make you guys think a little, maybe hopefully think outside the box a little bit, but also just maybe drop some level 5 smites if you want to.
The one thing that always like kind of makes me mad is just like, man, it's taken me like 3 years just to have my world in a spot where I think it might actually be playable now. Mm-hmm. And you come up with a crazy awesome one shot that's all sorts of interesting and a bunch of different stuff in like 3 days.
No, well, yours is way more complex than this. Mine was like,
sure,
go rescue a hag.
But you know what I mean? I've only run one shot that I completely wrote myself, you know?
Well, I will say sometimes it comes down to, I kind of improv it. And just kind of, I have the idea in your head, and you just kind of run with it. And this particular one, I wanted Joelle to give me a little bit of a backstory, and so I was jumping on her backstory as well.
Yeah,
so I won't take all the credit, but thank you.
And you know, I do think that it's one of those things where I just have to start learning to flex those muscles a little bit, but also just naturally, I'm not a creator. I'm a refiner. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. You know, and honestly, you do some of the best work. Strahd is still really cool how the changes that you've made, and how it adapts and honestly made it a little bit more personable and a little bit more your story, your Strahd, instead of just the book Strahd, which I think is important as creators.
For sure.
And we all shine in our own different ways. Yeah, I don't know. Well, and you gave me a really cool idea of connecting Joelle. So I think D&D in general, Kurtis, the moral of the story, and really where we should end this podcast is D&D is collaborative.
Yeah. It takes a village. Is that saying work here?
Yeah, you use those unpaid interns.
And if you can't think of it yourself, go get an unpaid intern.
Oh man, well, if you guys indeed are curious about the notes that I eventually come up with, I can edit them and put them in a Dropbox and put them in the description if you guys so incline. And Kurtis will be my editor, so make sure all the misspelled words will be spelled correctly. I have been Jacob. Thank you all so much for joining us.
I've been Kurtis. Again, thank you for joining us here.
We're going to be posting every other Monday. This whole conversation that we do, because it does take me a little bit longer to edit these ones. Because the video, so I kind of wanted a little bit more work. So yeah, I'm also, is it, can I be my own unpaid intern, or am I your unpaid intern?
Yeah, I think that's how it would work, really, because I'm not doing much work anyway.
Well, look at you. You got a pretty good setup, so you've done at least a little something.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well,
yeah. Who knows? Maybe.
All I ask for you to do, Kurtis, is just go watch each video all the way through, and click that like button
and comment.
And you did subscribe, so thank you for that.
I subscribed, and I'm gonna comment on every video, and yeah, who knows? Maybe in like I said, in 5 years, this will have taken off, and we can go every Monday.
Every Monday. That would be crazy.
Crazy.
Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next time on the Backyard Tabletop.
Bye-bye.